this is a low tier 5 PvPer, and this is a high tier 2 PvPer. Now what's the difference between these two PvPers? Well, as someone who's been high tier 2 for 1.5 years, I can tell you 4 fundamentals you need to know to become a high tier 2 PvPer yourself. Starting off with some of the most basic fundamentals, and working forward to methods only used by the pros. To start off, we're going to look at something every PvPer talks about, but I bet only 1% of my viewers are actually good at it. And if you want more videos like this breaking down PvP, consider subscribing because these take hours to make. Anyway, the first fundamental is aim. And I would be crazy to say that you've been training aim wrong this whole time. So how do you actually train aim in Bloxd.io? Well, first you need to understand what you're actually doing wrong. If you asked anyone how to train aim in Bloxd.io, they'll say one of 2 answers. Either stand still and let someone move around you, or have someone stand still and move around them whilst hitting them. Now why is this wrong? Well, that takes out the entire natural feel of aim during a fight. Both you and your opponent are moving, so you're not really even training your aim that well. So how do you train aim in Bloxd.io? Well, you can actually do it off Bloxd.io. In Minecraft, Speed 2 PvP makes really good aim. That's how I got my aim, as it's faster moving, so you have to adapt much faster. But we can also do this in Bloxd. Just PvP someone with both rested speed, or you can PvP them on ice. But here's the best way to use this aim training method. First, you and your opponent both get rested speed and go on for 10 rounds. Then do the same with speed 1, and then the same with speed 2. Then when you swap back to rested speed, your aim should improve. Just remember, aim takes practice, so don't expect huge improvements right away. The next fundamental you will need to learn is movement. This is as important as aim. Before I show you the more advanced movement techniques, you need to know the basics. All you need to do is always be holding either A or D and switching between them as much as you can. This is important because without switching between them, you're pretty predictable. And for more advanced players, we have jumping. There's 2 ways you can use a jump to get yourself advantage in PvP. For the first one, you can use it as crit, but you have to do it properly because against the better players, there's a good chance you'll get air comboed. To avoid this, just time your jumps for when your enemy is also in the air, but I also recommend not doing this against the very skilled players. And for the second way you can use jumping to get yourself advantage in PvP is more of a movement trick. Well, when you jump, it looks like your momentum path has been chosen, so most players tend to predict here. That's why by quickly switching your direction mid-jump, it can make your enemy fumble, especially on Minecraft players, since this is unexpected, and that's not how Minecraft movement works. To do this, jump while holding either A or D, and halfway through the jump, just switch directions. Your playstyle matters a lot when it comes to sword PvP, and if I had to guess, you're probably predictable, but in this section, I can teach you how to be unpredictable. If you ever fought someone like 100 times, you might notice them perform better against you specifically, but not better against other opponents. And that's because they learned how to counter your PvP style. So when it comes to sword PvP, the only thing you can really change for playstyle is movement. That's why I'm showing you movement techniques that the pros use. And after that, I'll show you the most important PvP technique that every tier 2 or tier 1 player uses. To start off, we have circle strafe, and this is probably one of the most common movement methods, but it's definitely worth learning. With spacing, you usually get to stay in front of your opponent most of the time, and you really rely on those micro movements to try to mess them up, but this one's probably the most common that I see from, well, the high pixel 1v1 players, and it works pretty darn well. And if your enemy doesn't have the best aim, this doesn't work on mobile players, by the way, you can try to get closer to them. Now, doesn't that make it easier for them to hit you? Yes, but this also makes it easier to get behind them, and if they're bad with their aim, then this can be really useful for you and mess them up quite a bit. Now for the most important PvP fundamental, I kid you not, every non-mobile, high tier 2 or low tier 1 I've played against does this, and it's pause and movement. But why? Well, first there's a few ways you can do this, with a C tap, an S tap, or a W tap. You've probably seen pros do this, or other people talk about this before. While most people say by doing this it reduces KP or makes you deal more knockback, kind of like in Minecraft. But that's not really proven. But I'm not here to prove myths wrong, so I'm gonna tell you what works for 100% certainty. Each of these actions pauses or greatly slows your movement in an instance. These momentum changes can mess up someone's predictions greatly as they see you moving at one speed, so they don't really account for the speed change in anytime soon. By pairing C taps with A and D strafes, you can stop your opponent, then change directions for a little bit of confusion. And with W or S taps, the spacing strategy becomes a lot easier to keep that distance, meaning they have less of a chance to hit you, and you could really learn this. Or even just adjust in your position during an air combo. W and S taps are definitely something you need to learn. And if you watched this far, I plan to do more videos like this on even more game modes, so to make sure you don't miss out, please make sure to subscribe. It really means a lot to me.